The numbers swam before Natalie Harper's eyes. 43 million in debt, 6 weeks until foreclosure, 3 generations of her family's hotel empire dissolving like sugar in rain. She pressed her palms flat against the mahogany desk that once belonged to her grandfather, fighting to steady her breathing. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Harper Grand Hotel's executive office, Manhattan buzzed with indifferent life, while her world crumbled. "Natalie, sweetheart." Her father's voice crackled through the speakerphone from his hospital bed in Switzerland, weak and defeated. "Maybe 6 weeks before the banks foreclose. I should never have let pride stop me from selling when we had the chance." She closed her eyes. "There has to be another way, Dad. Some investor, some loan, something." "I'm afraid not, Princess. Unless a miracle walks through that door in the next few days, we're finished." The line went dead. At 27, Harvard Business School graduate, heir to a hospitality empire, she was about to become the Harper who lost everything. Her assistant's soft knock interrupted the crushing silence. "Miss Harper, there's a gentleman here to see you. Says it's urgent business regarding your hotels." Natalie straightened her navy blazer, checked her reflection in the antique mirror, forced steel into her spine. Even facing financial ruin, a Harper never looked less than impeccable. "Send him in." The man who entered made the air shift. Ryan Castellano moved with predatory grace, someone who owned half the world and was actively acquiring the other half. His charcoal suit molded perfectly to his tall frame, dark hair catching the afternoon light, but it was his piercing blue eyes that held her captive, calculating and intense as they swept over her office before settling on her face with uncomfortable precision. "Miss Harper." His deep voice carried a hint of Italian heritage, smooth as aged whiskey. "I believe we have something to discuss." Natalie stood, extended her hand with practiced grace. "I wasn't expecting you, Mr. Castellano. Please, have a seat." Her handshake was firm, professional, but he noticed the slight tremor in her fingers. "Actually, Miss Harper, I believe I can help you." He settled into the leather chair across from her desk. "I'm aware of your current financial situation." Her composure slipped for just a moment. "I'm not sure what you mean." "I mean that you're approximately 43 million in debt, your primary investors have pulled out, and you have roughly 6 weeks before your creditors force you into bankruptcy." Each word landed like a physical blow. Natalie's hands clenched into fists. "If you came here to gloat or make a lowball offer for our properties, you can save us both some time and leave now." Ryan smiled. He admired her spirit even in the face of complete destruction. "On the contrary, I'm here to offer you a solution. Unconventional, but a solution nonetheless." She raised an eyebrow, green eyes flashing with hope and suspicion. "I'm listening. I need a wife, Miss Harper. Not for love, not for companionship, but for business. There's a deal I'm pursuing with a very traditional Japanese corporation. They place enormous value on family stability. A married man with an established, respectable wife would have a significant advantage in securing their partnership." The silence stretched so complete that Ryan could hear distant traffic from the street below. Natalie stared at him as if he'd suggested they rob a bank together. "You want to marry me?" "For business. I want to enter into a mutually beneficial contract that happens to involve marriage. You get enough money to save your hotels and restore your family's legacy. I get a wife who looks perfect on paper and won't make emotional demands on my time or attention." Natalie felt like she'd stepped into an alternate reality. She studied his face, looking for any sign this was an elaborate joke, but his expression remained serious, expectant. "Let me make sure I understand," she said carefully. "You want to marry me to impress some Japanese investors, and in return, you'll pay off my debts. I'll pay off your debts, provide you with a generous monthly allowance, and ensure that your hotels not only survive but thrive under my business umbrella. After 2 years, we divorce amicably and you keep everything." The offer was a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman, but Natalie forced herself to think rationally. And what exactly would this marriage entail? "I assume you're not suggesting we live together as a happy couple." "We would maintain separate residences, but make public appearances together as needed. Charity events, business dinners, the occasional weekend getaway for the sake of our image. Nothing more intimate than what any business partnership requires. No physical relationship." The question slipped out before she could stop it, and heat crept up her neck. Ryan's eyes darkened slightly. That would be entirely up to us, but it wouldn't be required by the contract. This is business, Miss Harper, not a romance novel. She stood and walked to the window, needing distance from his overwhelming presence. The city stretched out below her, millions of people going about their lives, without knowing that hers hung in the balance of this impossible conversation. I need details, she said without turning around. I need to see exactly what you're proposing before I can even consider it. Of course. She heard him move behind her. Then he was standing close enough that she could smell his cologne, expensive and masculine. My lawyers will have a contract drawn up by tomorrow. We can meet here to review the terms. Natalie turned to face him, surprised by how close he was standing. His height forced her to tilt her head back to meet his eyes, and for a moment, she felt overwhelmed by his physical presence. And if I say no, then I wish you the best of luck with your creditors. His tone was matter of fact, but she caught something else in his expression. A flicker of interest that had nothing to do with business. You could have any woman in the city, she said. Models, actresses, socialites who would jump at the chance to marry a billionaire. Someone who actually wants this kind of arrangement. Ryan stepped closer, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his blue eyes. But none of them have what I need, Miss Harper. Class, intelligence, family reputation, and most importantly, no romantic illusions about what this would be. You're perfect for my purposes. The way he said perfect sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. I'll review your contract, she heard herself saying. But I'm not making any promises. Ryan smiled, and for the first time since he'd entered her office, the expression seemed genuinely warm. I wouldn't expect anything less from a Harper. That evening, Natalie sat in her apartment overlooking Central Park, a glass of wine in her hand, and Ryan's business card on the coffee table before her. The space felt too quiet, too empty, filled with antique furniture and family photographs that reminded her of everything she stood to lose. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. The contract will be ready at 9 tomorrow morning. I hope you sleep well tonight, Natalie. You have a big decision to make. She stared at the message, her heart pounding. She didn't sleep at all. Natalie arrived at Ryan's penthouse office at 9 sharp, her navy suit crisp, her nerves hidden behind layers of practiced composure. The space was all glass and steel, overlooking the city like a kingdom waiting to be conquered. Ryan stood by the window, phone to his ear, speaking rapid Italian. When he saw her, he ended the call immediately. Natalie, thank you for coming. He gestured to a leather sofa where a thick contract sat waiting. Coffee? Black, please. He poured 2 cups from a sleek machine, handed her one. Their fingers brushed, and she felt that same electric charge from yesterday. She sat, opened the contract, began reading. Ryan settled into the chair across from her, watching her face as she absorbed each clause. Clause 7. The marriage will last exactly 24 months from the date of the wedding ceremony. Clause 12. Ryan Castellano will immediately pay off all debts associated with Harper Hotels, totaling $43 million. Clause 18. Natalie Harper will receive a monthly allowance of $50,000 for personal expenses. Clause 23. Both parties will maintain the public appearance of a loving, committed marriage, including but not limited to attending events together, displaying appropriate physical affection in public settings, and refraining from romantic involvement with third parties for the duration of the contract. She looked up sharply at that last one. Refraining from romantic involvement? So I'm expected to be celibate for 2 years. Ryan's jaw tightened. We're both expected to maintain the illusion. Affairs would complicate things, compromise the arrangement. How convenient for you. She set down her coffee cup a bit too hard. You get a wife who looks perfect on paper, and you don't have to worry about her having a life of her own. You're free to walk away, Natalie. But let's be honest about what walking away means. Your father dies knowing he lost everything his family built. Your employees lose their jobs. Your legacy becomes a cautionary tale. The words were cruel because they were true. She returned to the contract, her hands trembling slightly. Clause 31. Upon dissolution of the marriage, Natalie Harper will retain full ownership of Harper Hotels and all associated properties. She will also receive a settlement of $5 million. $5 million? She looked up, shocked. For your trouble. Ryan's expression was unreadable. And to ensure you're set up for whatever comes next. This is insane. She stood, paced to the window, the contract clutched in her hand. People don't do this anymore. Arranged marriages, business deals. People with everything to lose and everything to gain do this all the time. Ryan rose, moved toward her. The only difference is we're being honest about it. She turned to face him. And what about you? What are you really getting out of this besides some Japanese investors? You're Ryan Castellano. You could secure any deal you wanted. Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe, quickly buried. Let's just say I have my reasons for needing this to look real. Reasons that are mine, and not part of this negotiation. That's not good enough. Natalie stepped closer, forcing him to meet her eyes. You want me to sign away 2 years of my life? You owe me the truth. What are you really after? Ryan was quiet for a long moment, jaw working. Then quietly, my father. He's dying. Cancer. He has maybe 6 months. And the one thing he wants before he goes is to see me settled, married, with the promise of a family legacy continuing. He built our company from nothing, and he's terrified it'll die with me because I've spent my whole life choosing business over everything else. The vulnerability in his voice caught her off guard. So you're doing this for him, she said softly. I'm doing this because it solves multiple problems at once. The investors, my father's peace of mind, your hotels, everyone gets what they need. Except us. The words hung in the air between them. We get a lie. We get a solution. Ryan reached out, almost touched her face, then seemed to think better of it and dropped his hand. Isn't that enough? Natalie looked down at the contract, then back at this complicated, guarded man who was offering her salvation wrapped in deception. I need one more thing, she said. Added to the contract. Name it. Honesty. Between us when we're alone, no public watching. I won't live with lies in private, too. If this thing becomes something other than what we're planning, if feelings develop or if problems arise, we talk about it. Really talk. No games, no manipulation. Can you agree to that? Ryan studied her for a long moment, something like respect flickering in his eyes. Deal. I'll have my lawyers at it. He extended his hand. So, Miss Harper, do we have an agreement? Natalie looked at his hand, then at the contract, then at the city sprawling below them full of people living honest, uncomplicated lives. She thought of her father in that hospital bed, her employees who depended on her, the legacy she'd sworn to protect. She took his hand. We have an agreement. Good. Ryan's grip was firm, warm. Then I suppose congratulations are in order. We're getting married in 3 weeks. 3 weeks? She nearly choked. That's impossible. That's necessary. The Japanese delegation arrives in 4 weeks. We need to be convincingly married by then. He pulled out his phone, started typing. I'm sending you the contact information for a wedding planner. Spare no expense. This needs to look like a real society wedding. Not some rushed courthouse affair. But my father, he can't travel. He won't be able to attend. Then we'll live stream it to his hospital room. Ryan's tone softened slightly. He'll see his daughter marry into one of the most powerful families in New York. That's something, isn't it? It was something. A beautiful lie, but something. I should go, Natalie said, suddenly feeling suffocated by the magnitude of what she'd just agreed to. I need to process all this. Of course. Ryan walked her to the elevator. As the doors opened, he caught her wrist gently. Natalie? She turned back. For what it's worth, I think you're incredibly brave. Not many people would make this choice. Brave or desperate, maybe both. The elevator doors closed between them, and Natalie let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Dinner tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Il Gattopardo. We should be seen together. Start building our story. Wear something that will photograph well. She stared at the message, her heart racing. In 3 weeks, she would become Mrs. Ryan Castellano. The thought terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Another text came through. Oh, and Natalie? We need to talk about the engagement ring. I'm thinking princess cut diamond platinum setting. Unless you have other preferences? She typed back quickly. How about we discuss it at dinner? Along with everything else we apparently need to coordinate in the next 3 weeks? His response came immediately. I like when you push back. This might actually be interesting. Natalie leaned against the elevator wall. a strange smile tugging at her lips. What had she just agreed to? The wedding was a masterpiece of elegant deception. St. Patrick's Cathedral filled with white roses and Manhattan's elite. Natalie walked down the aisle in ivory silk, her father watching via video feed from Switzerland, tears streaming down his weathered face. Ryan stood at the altar in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, and when she reached him, the look in his eyes was so convincingly tender that she almost forgot it was all performance. "You look beautiful," he whispered as he took her hand. "You look terrified," she whispered back. "That makes two of us." The reception was held at the plaza, 300 guests toasting their happiness while neither of them touched the champagne. They danced their first dance to a string quartet, Ryan's hand warm and steady on her lower back, and when he dipped her, the cameras flashed like stars. "We're good at this," he murmured against her ear. The lying. Maybe too good. 3 months into their marriage, the charade had settled into something almost comfortable. They attended galas together, had mastered the art of seeming affectionate in public, even shared the occasional laugh over morning coffee when Ryan stopped by her apartment before work. The Japanese deal had closed. Harper hotels were thriving under Castellano investment. Ryan's father had smiled at their wedding photos from his hospital bed. Everything was going according to plan, until the night everything shattered. Natalie arrived home late from a hotel inspection in Boston, exhausted and looking forward to a hot bath. She'd texted Ryan that she was back, a courtesy they'd developed over the months. His response came immediately. "Can you come to my place? Need to talk." Something in those 4 words made her chest tighten. 20 minutes later, she stood in his penthouse living room, still in her travel clothes, while Ryan paced like a caged animal. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Is it your father? Did something happen?" "My father's fine." Ryan stopped pacing, turned to face her. "Natalie, I need to tell you something, and you're going to hate me for it." Her heart started to race. "What is it?" "The Japanese investors. The ones I needed the marriage for." He ran a hand through his hair. A gesture she'd learned meant he was deeply stressed. They never existed. The words didn't make sense at first. What? There was no traditional corporation, no deal that required a wife. "I made it up." Natalie felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. "You're lying." "I wish I was." Ryan's voice was raw with something that sounded like guilt. "The deal was real, but they didn't care if I was married. That was never a factor." "Then why?" She could barely breathe. "Why would you do this? Why would you make me marry you under false pretenses?" Ryan moved toward her, but she held up a hand, stopping him cold. "Don't. Just tell me the truth. All of it." "I needed you," he said simply. "Not for business. For my father. He was dying, and the one thing he wanted was to see me married to someone worthy of our family name. Someone with class, intelligence, legacy. He'd been pressuring me for years, and when I found out he had months to live, I panicked." "So you found a desperate woman with a failing business and manipulated her into becoming your wife?" Natalie's voice was shaking with rage and betrayal. "You lied to me, Ryan. You made me sign a contract based on a complete fabrication." "I saved your hotels," he shot back. "Everything I promised you was real. The money, the support, the settlement. You got exactly what you needed. I got scammed into a fake marriage by a man I was starting to trust." The words caught in her throat. "Starting to care about." The admission hung in the air between them. Ryan's expression shifted, something raw and vulnerable breaking through his usual control. "You care about me?" "Don't," she backed away. "Don't you dare try to make this about feelings when you built our entire relationship on a lie." "You're right." Ryan's voice dropped. "I'm sorry, Natalie. I'm so damn sorry. But if I could go back, I'd do it again, because meeting you, knowing you these past 3 months, it's been the realest thing in my life in years. How am I supposed to believe anything you say now?" Tears were streaming down her face, and she hated herself for crying in front of him. "How do I know any of it was real? The conversations, the moments when it felt like maybe we were becoming friends, maybe even becoming something more. Because this is real." Ryan closed the distance between them in 2 strides, framed her face with his hands. "This thing between us, the way I can't stop thinking about you, the way I find excuses to see you even when we don't have events scheduled. That's not part of any contract or any lie. That's just me, being honest for the first time in my life about what I want. And what do you want? Her voice was barely a whisper. You. He said it like a confession. I want you, Natalie. Not as a business arrangement, not as a contract wife. Just you. She should have pushed him away, should have walked out and called her lawyer to dissolve this sham of a marriage. But his hands were warm on her face, and his eyes held something desperate and true. And when he leaned in, she didn't stop him. The kiss was everything their polite public pecks had never been. Hungry, desperate, real. His hand slid into her hair, and she gripped his shirt, pulling him closer. 3 months of careful distance dissolving in the heat between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ryan pressed his forehead to hers. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry for lying to you. But I'm not sorry for this. For us. Natalie pulled back, her mind spinning. There is no us, Ryan. There's a contract and a countdown and a lie that just got bigger. Then let's end the contract. Ryan's voice was urgent now. Let's make this real. Stay married to me, not because of any agreement, but because you want to. You're insane. She stepped away, needing space to think. You lied to me about everything, and now you want me to just forget it and play house for real? I want you to give us a chance to be something honest. Honest? She laughed bitterly. You don't even know what that word means. She grabbed her purse, headed for the door. Natalie, wait. She turned back, one hand on the doorknob. I need time, Ryan. Time to figure out if anything between us was ever real, or if I've just been fooling myself these past 3 months. How much time? I don't know. She opened the door. But until I figure it out, we're back to the contract. Public appearances only. Everything else stops. Everything? His voice cracked slightly. Everything. She walked out, and this time he didn't follow. In the elevator, Natalie let herself fall apart, sinking to the floor as sobs racked her body. She'd been so careful, so determined not to let feelings complicate the arrangement. But somewhere between the wedding and now, she'd fallen for her fake husband, and that made his betrayal cut twice as deep. 2 weeks passed in careful, painful distance. They attended their scheduled events, smiled for cameras, played the perfect couple while dying inside. Ryan's texts became shorter, more formal. Natalie threw herself into work, spending 18-hour days at Harper hotels, anything to avoid the aching hollow in her chest. It was her assistant who brought her the news that changed everything. Miss Harper, have you seen this? Sarah placed a tablet on her desk, an article from the Financial Times displayed on the screen. Castellano Empire under investigation. Allegations of fraud. Rock Manhattan's business elite. Natalie's blood ran cold as she read. Anonymous sources claiming Ryan had falsified financial documents to secure his latest merger. Securities fraud, insider trading, potential criminal charges. Her phone rang. Ryan's name flashed on the screen. She answered. I just saw the article. It's not true. His voice was tight with stress. None of it. But the investigation alone could destroy everything I've built. The banks are freezing accounts. Investors are pulling out. Natalie, I need you to know this isn't real. Like the Japanese investors weren't real? The words came out harsher than she intended. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, I deserved that. Ryan, who's behind this? I don't know yet. But whoever it is, they're good. They've planted evidence, created a paper trail that looks damning. My lawyers say even if I'm eventually cleared, the damage to my reputation could take years to repair. Natalie's mind raced. What about Harper Hotels? Are we implicated? No. The allegations are specifically about deals I made before we married. Your properties are protected. A pause. Natalie, I need to give you an out. What? The contract. You should invoke the early termination clause. Distance yourself from me before this scandal touches you too. The press will eat you alive if you stand by me through this. The early termination clause only applies if one party commits fraud or breach of contract. Then let's call my original. Lie about the investors a breach. Your lawyers could make it stick. You'd get your settlement, keep your hotels, walk away clean. Natalie stood, walked to her window overlooking the city. And what happens to you? I fight this. Probably lose a significant portion of my company in the process. Spend years rebuilding my reputation. His voice cracked slightly. Watch you walk away, knowing I drove you to it." She closed her eyes, thinking of the man who'd lied to her, betrayed her trust. The same man who'd saved her family's legacy, who'd looked at her like she was the only real thing in his carefully constructed world. The man she'd fallen in love with despite every reason not to. "I'm not invoking the clause," she heard herself say. "Natalie, don't be stupid about this. Your reputation matters. So does yours." She gripped the phone tighter. "Ryan, I'm going to ask you one question, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Did you commit fraud?" "No," the word was immediate and firm. "I've done a lot of morally gray things in business, cut corners, played hardball, but I never crossed into illegal. I wouldn't." "Then we fight this together." "Why would you do that, after what I did to you?" "Because whether our marriage started as a lie or not, right now it's the truth on paper. And I don't abandon family, even fake family, when they're in trouble." She could hear him breathing on the other end, something that might have been a broken laugh or a sob. "I don't deserve you," he whispered. "Probably not. But that's not really the point, is it?" That evening, Natalie called an emergency press conference. She stood before a sea of cameras and reporters, wearing a crimson dress that photographed like armor, and delivered the performance of her lifetime. "My husband, Ryan Castellano, is innocent of all charges. These allegations are baseless attacks designed to damage a good man's reputation. I stand by him completely, as does our family. Harper Hotels maintains full confidence in the Castellano Corporation, and we will be deepening our business ties, not severing them, as a show of that confidence." The questions came like bullets. "Mrs. Castellano, aren't you concerned about your own company's reputation?" "I'm concerned about the truth, which will come out." "Is it true your marriage was a business arrangement from the start?" "My marriage is between my husband and me. What I can tell you is that Ryan Castellano is a man of integrity who has been targeted by enemies seeking to destroy him. I won't let that happen." After the conference, she found Ryan waiting in her office, having watched the live stream. His eyes were red, his usual composure shattered. "You just put everything on the line for me," he said hoarsely. "Your reputation, your company, your father's legacy." "I know. Why?" Natalie met his gaze steadily. "Because someone once told me that desperate people do desperate things for the people they care about. And it turns out I care about you, Ryan, even though you lied to me. Even though this whole thing is complicated and messy and probably the worst decision I've ever made." Ryan crossed the room in 3 strides, pulled her into his arms. "I love you," he said against her hair. "I'm in love with you, Natalie. I have been for months. I just didn't know how to tell you without it sounding like another manipulation." She pulled back to look at him. "Say it again." "I love you." His voice was raw, honest. "I love how you fight for what you believe in. I love how you call me on my garbage. I love how you made this fake marriage feel real without even trying. I love you. And I'm terrified I've destroyed any chance we had." Natalie reached up, touched his face. "You hurt me. You lied to me. And I'm still so angry about that. I know. But I love you too." The admission felt like stepping off a cliff. "I hate that I do, but I can't help it. You're arrogant and manipulative and impossible. And somehow you've become the person I want to talk to at the end of every day." Ryan kissed her then. Desperate and grateful, like a man who'd been drowning and finally found air. When they broke apart, both trembling, he pressed his forehead to hers. "We'll get through this," he promised. "Together. I'll prove to you that I can be the man you deserve. Just be honest with me. That's all I need. Always. From now on. Always." That night, they fell asleep together for the first time, tangled in each other on her couch, the TV playing news coverage of the scandal they'd faced together. 3 days later, Natalie received a call from an unknown number. "Mrs. Castellano? This is Detective Martinez with the NYPD. We need to speak with you about your husband. I'm afraid we have some information about who's behind the fraud allegations, and you're not going to like it." The voice on the other end delivered news that made her blood run cold. The evidence pointed to someone she'd trusted implicitly, someone who'd had access to Ryan's files through her, someone inside Harper Hotels. Natalie stood in the Harper Hotels conference room, staring at her director of operations, Marcus Chen, a man who'd worked for her family for 15 years. A man she'd trusted like an uncle. "Say that again," she whispered. Detective Martinez, standing beside her, repeated the damning information. Marcus Chen sold proprietary Castellano documents to a rival corporation. Documents he accessed through your shared server during the merger. He falsified timestamps and financial records to make it look like Ryan committed fraud. The rival company planned to acquire Castellano assets cheap once the scandal tanked the stock price. Marcus sat at the conference table, head in his hands. Ryan stood by the window, his face carved from stone. "Why?" Natalie's voice broke. "Marcus, you were like family." Marcus looked up, his eyes hollow. "Your father fired my brother 10 years ago. Cost him everything. I've been waiting for a chance to hurt this family the way we were hurt. When you married Castellano and merged the companies, I finally had access to take you both down." The betrayal cut deeper than Ryan's lies ever had. This was family. This was years of trust, shattered in seconds. "My father fired your brother for embezzlement," Natalie said quietly. "He stole from us, Marcus. You know that. He made a mistake. Your father destroyed him anyway." Marcus's voice turned bitter. "Just like you Harpers destroy everything you touch. I thought if I could ruin you both. Finally. Justice." "That's not justice," Ryan said, his voice deadly calm. "That's revenge. And you failed." Marcus laughed, a broken sound. "Did I? Look at you two. Your marriage is a sham. Her reputation is tied to yours now, and even if you're cleared, the stain remains. I may have failed to destroy you completely, but I damaged you." "That's something." Detective Martinez stepped forward. "Marcus Chen, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and corporate espionage." As they led Marcus away in handcuffs, Natalie sank into a chair, shaking. Ryan knelt before her, took her trembling hands in his. "It's over," he said softly. "He can't hurt us anymore." "He already did." Tears streamed down her face. "I brought him into your world. I gave him access to your files through our merger. This is my fault." "No." Ryan's voice was firm. "This is his fault. His choice. You were trying to save your family's legacy. There's no shame in that. Everything's ruined. My company's name, your reputation, our marriage." "Our marriage," Ryan repeated slowly. "Natalie, look at me." She met his eyes, those blue depths that had become so familiar, so necessary. "Our marriage started as a contract," he said. "A lie I told to get what I needed, but somewhere along the way, it became the most honest thing in my life. You became the most honest thing in my life." "Ryan, let me finish." He squeezed her hands. "These past months, fighting this scandal with you, watching you stand by me when you had every reason to walk away, I realized something. I don't want a contract marriage. I don't want an arrangement with an expiration date. I want you, Natalie, for real, forever, if you'll have me." She stared at him, her heart pounding. "We have a year left on the contract." "Forget the contract." Ryan reached into his pocket, pulled out a small velvet box. "This isn't the ring I gave you at our fake engagement. This is something I bought yesterday because I wanted to do this right." He opened the box. Inside was a stunning emerald ring, the stone the exact color of her eyes, surrounded by diamonds that caught the afternoon light. "Natalie Harper Castellano," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "Will you marry me again? This time for real. No contracts, no lies, no expiration dates. Just two broken people who somehow found each other and made something true out of all the deception." Natalie looked at the ring, then at the man kneeling before her, the man who'd saved her family, betrayed her trust, and then fought his way back into her heart through sheer stubborn honesty. "You're impossible," she whispered. "Is that a yes? You lied to me, manipulated me, dragged me into a scandal. I know. You made me fall in love with you when I swore I wouldn't." Ryan's lips curved into the smallest smile. "I know that too. And now you're asking me to do this all over again, but for real this time." "Yes." He met her eyes steadily. "I'm asking you to choose me, not because you're desperate or trapped, but because you want to. Because somewhere in all this mess, we found something worth keeping." Natalie was quiet for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. Then she nodded. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, I'll marry you again. For real this time." Ryan stood, slipped the emerald ring onto her finger beside the original engagement ring. Then he kissed her, soft and reverent, like a man who'd been given a second chance and knew exactly how precious it was. "I love you," he murmured against her lips. "I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of you." "You already did," she said. "The moment you let me see the real you, flaws and all." 6 months later, they stood together in the same cathedral where they'd first said hollow vows. But this time the pews were nearly empty. Just Ryan's father, recovered enough to travel, Natalie's father via video feed, and a handful of close friends who knew the whole messy truth. No cameras, no performance. Just two people choosing each other with clear eyes and honest hearts. "I, Ryan Castellano, take you, Natalie Harper, to be my wife," Ryan said, his voice steady and sure. "Not because of any deal or arrangement, but because you're the only person who's ever made me want to be better than I am. I promise to be honest with you, even when it's hard, to fight for us even when it's complicated, to love you, not because I need to, but because I choose to. Every day, for the rest of my life." Natalie's voice shook as she spoke her own vows. "I, Natalie Harper, take you, Ryan Castellano, to be my husband. You're infuriating and impossible, and loving you hasn't been easy. But it's been real, and that's worth everything. I promise to call you on your nonsense, to stand by you when the world turns against us, and to never stop choosing you, even when you give me 100 reasons not to." When the priest pronounced them husband and wife, their kiss was witnessed by love, not obligation. Later, at the small reception in Ryan's penthouse, his father pulled Natalie aside. "You saved my son," the older man said, his eyes misty. "Not his company, not his reputation. Him, the real him. Thank you for that." "He saved me too," Natalie replied, watching Ryan laugh at something her father had said via the video screen. "We saved each other." That night, as they stood on Ryan's balcony overlooking the city that had witnessed their complicated beginning, Natalie leaned into her husband's embrace. "Do you think we're crazy?" she asked. "Starting a real marriage after everything that happened?" Ryan pressed a kiss to her temple. "Probably. But I'd rather be crazy with you than sane with anyone else." "That's possibly the most romantic thing you've ever said to me. Give me time. I'm still learning how to do this without a contract telling me what to say." She laughed, turned in his arms to face him. "For the record, I'm glad you walked into my office that day, even with all the lies and the scandal and the mess." "Yeah?" "Yeah. Because underneath all of that, I found you. The real you, and he's worth it." Ryan kissed her then, slow and deep, the kind of kiss that promised forever without needing a single written guarantee. Below them, the city lights twinkled like stars, and somewhere in the distance, a church bell rang, marking the hour. They had started with a contract and a lie, but they'd built something true, and that, Natalie thought as Ryan lifted her into his arms and carried her inside, was the only ending that mattered. The end.